Rice, bread, noodles, and potatoes don't taste sweet, but your body can still turn them into glucose fast. That is the starch trap. Foods that feel harmless on your tongue can hit your bloodstream like sugar. The mistake most people make is using taste as a blood sugar detector. If something tastes sweet, they fear it. If it tastes plain, salty, soft, or comforting, they relax. But your tongue is not measuring glucose. Your tongue is measuring flavor. Your digestive system is measuring chemistry. And starch is chemistry in disguise. Think of starch like a long necklace made of glucose beads. When it sits on your plate, it does not taste like sugar because those beads are locked together in chains. But the moment you start chewing, your body brings out the cutters. Enzymes begin snipping that necklace apart. Piece by piece, those hidden glucose beads are released, absorbed, and moved into your bloodstream. That is why a bowl of rice can feel innocent, a bagel can feel normal, and a potato can feel like real food, while your blood sugar sees something very different. Let's break down the starch trap, food by food, mechanism by mechanism, so you can stop judging carbs by sweetness and start judging them by how fast they unlock. Trap 1. The sweetness test fails. Sugar is simple. It is already broken down enough for your tongue to recognize it. That is why soda, candy, honey, and desserts taste sweet immediately. Starch is different. Starch hides glucose inside long chains. Your mouth does not taste the whole chain as sweet because the glucose is still locked inside the structure. But digestion does not care whether a food tastes sweet. Digestion cares whether enzymes can reach the chain. Once amylase in your saliva and digestive tract starts cutting starch into smaller pieces, the sweetness that was invisible to your tongue becomes glucose your body can absorb. This is the first trap. A food can be non-sweet and still be glucose-rich. White rice, white bread, plain noodles, crackers, cereal, and potatoes do not need to taste like dessert to become blood sugar. They just need to be made of starch that your body can break down quickly. That sounds obvious once you hear it, but it changes everything. Because most people are not overeating sugar only when they eat candy. They are often flooding the system with fast starch while believing they are avoiding sugar. Trap 2. The zipper effect. To understand why some starches hit faster than others, imagine that glucose necklace again. Some foods protect the necklace inside a tough shell. Others hand the necklace to your enzymes with the clasp already open. Whole intact grains, beans, lentils, and many high-fiber foods are like necklaces locked inside a thick wooden box. Your digestive enzymes have to work. They have to get through fiber, cell walls, protein, fat, and intact food structure before the glucose chains are fully exposed. That slows the release. But refined starch is different. White flour, puffed rice, many breakfast cereals, instant noodles, crackers, and soft white bread have already been crushed, milled, puffed, flattened, or cooked into a form your enzymes can attack quickly. The wooden box is gone. The necklace is sitting on the table. Your body just starts cutting. This is why two foods with the same basic ingredient can behave very differently. A whole grain kernel and a slice of soft white bread may both come from grain, but they do not enter your biology the same way. One still has structure. The other has been pre-opened. Food processing is not just about calories. It changes access. It decides how fast the cutters can reach the starch. Trap 3. White bread and the sponge problem. White bread is one of the clearest examples of the starch trap. It is soft. It is airy. It barely needs chewing. And that is exactly the problem. Think of white bread like a dry sponge. The moment it enters your digestive system, it collapses, absorbs fluid, and exposes a huge surface area. More surface area means more enzyme contact. More enzyme contact means faster starch breakdown. Faster starch breakdown means glucose arrives in the bloodstream more quickly. Harvard's nutrition source explains the core principle. Digestible carbohydrates are broken down into sugar that enters the blood. The American Diabetes Association separates carbohydrates into starches, sugars, and fiber. That matters because starch is not outside the blood sugar conversation. Starch is part of it. The trap is that bread feels like a meal, not a sweet. It feels practical, it feels ordinary. Toast, sandwiches, bagels, buns, rolls, crackers. But when that starch is refined and low in fiber, your body can process it fast. That does not mean every piece of bread is poison. That is the wrong lesson. The real lesson is structure. A dense, fiber-rich, less processed bread behaves differently from a soft, refined bread because the glucose necklace is harder to reach. Your bloodstream does not ask, "Was this bread sweet?" It asks, "How fast can I get the glucose?" Trap 4. Rice and noodles. Rice is the classic starch trap because it looks clean. It is not greasy. It is not frosted. It does not look processed in the same way candy looks processed, but many forms of rice are dense packages of digestible starch. When rice is cooked, heat and water change the starch structure. The grains soften. The starch gelatinizes. That means the glucose chains become easier for enzymes to reach. The food becomes more digestible, which sounds good, but more digestible can also mean faster glucose release. This is especially relevant with white rice and many rice-based foods where the fiber-rich outer layers have been removed. Noodles can work the same way. When flour is refined, shaped, cooked, and softened, the digestive system gets a smoother path to the starch. Again, this is not a moral judgment on rice or noodles. It is a mechanism. Culture, portion size, meal composition, and activity all matter, but the biology stays the same. A big bowl of refined starch eaten alone is not the same as a smaller portion eaten with protein, vegetables, and fat. The second meal puts obstacles in front of the cutters. Think of it like traffic. Plain, refined starch can become an open highway. Add fiber, protein, and fat, and suddenly there are speed bumps, traffic lights, and narrower lanes. The glucose can still arrive. It just may arrive more slowly. That slower arrival is the goal. Trap 5. Potatoes and the white food illusion. Potatoes are confusing because they are whole foods. They come from the ground. They contain nutrients. They are not the same as candy or soda. But some potatoes can still produce a rapid glucose response, especially when baked, mashed, or processed into fluffy forms. The Linus Pauling Institute lists glycemic index examples where baked russet potato can test very high, and boiled white potato averages high as well. Puffed rice cakes and cornflakes also test high. The exact number changes by variety, cooking method, portion, and the person eating it. But the pattern is important. Some plain, non-sweet starches can sit in the high glycemic range. The glycemic index runs from 0 to 100, using glucose as the reference point. Low is usually 55 or below. Medium is 56 to 69. High is 70 or above. This scale is not perfect, but it gives you a useful warning. Sweetness and speed are not the same thing. A baked potato may not taste sugary, but if its starch is easy to access, your enzymes can still break it down rapidly. Mashed potatoes can be even easier because the structure is physically smashed. The necklace is not just exposed, it has been spread across the table. This is the white food illusion. People look at white sugar and say, danger. Then they look at white bread, white rice, white noodles, and fluffy potatoes and say, normal. But your bloodstream may see a family resemblance. Trap 6. The shield foods. Now here is the part most people miss. The answer is not simply, never eat starch. That is too crude. Your body does not respond only to the ingredient, it responds to the structure, the meal, and the speed. Fiber is one of the strongest shields. When carbohydrate comes packaged with fiber, it slows the digestive process. It creates physical resistance. It makes enzymes work harder. Beans, lentils, intact oats, barley, vegetables, and less processed grains tend to behave differently from refined flour products because they keep more of the original food architecture. Protein and fat can also slow the meal. They do not erase the starch, but they change the timing. A plate of rice by itself is not the same as rice with eggs, fish, tofu, olive oil, vegetables, and beans. A slice of white bread alone is not the same as a denser bread eaten with protein and fiber-rich foods. Think of your meal like a security checkpoint. Refined starch alone is a wide-open gate. Fiber adds a turnstile. Protein adds a second checkpoint. Fat slows the line. Acids like vinegar or fermented foods may also change the response for some meals. The point is not to block glucose completely. You need glucose. The point is to prevent the sudden flood. Your pancreas is watching that flood. When glucose rises, insulin has to respond. Insulin helps move glucose out of the blood and into cells or storage. A slower rise is usually easier for the system to manage than a fast spike followed by a crash. This is why the plate matters as much as the carb. Trap 7. The cooling trick. There is one more twist. Some starch can change after cooking. When certain cooked starches cool, part of that starch can reorganize into resistant starch. Resistant starch resists digestion in the small intestine, which means less of it is quickly cut into glucose there. One study on cooked white rice found that rice cooled for 24 hours at refrigerator temperature and then reheated produced a lower glycemic response than freshly cooked rice in that setting. This does not make rice magic. It does not make it free. It does not make it automatically safe for every person with diabetes, but it reveals an important truth. Starch is not fixed. The same food can behave differently depending on how it is cooked, cooled, processed, reheated, and combined with other foods. A hot, fresh starch, a cooled starch, a mashed starch, a puffed starch, and an intact starch can all present different levels of access to your enzymes. The glucose necklace is the same idea, but the packaging changes. This is why food advice becomes misleading when it only says, eat this or avoid that. Biology is more specific. It asks, how processed is it? How much fiber is left? How soft is the structure? How large is the portion? What else is on the plate? How fast can enzymes cut it open? That is the real starch question. Trap 8, the better test. So how do you escape the starch trap without becoming afraid of normal food? First, stop asking only, does it taste sweet? Ask, how broken down is it already? If a starch is puffed, powdered, flaked, mashed, refined, or made from white flour, it may be easier to digest quickly. Second, look for the shield. Is there fiber? Is there protein? Is there fat? Is the grain intact? Are there vegetables or beans on the plate? If the answer is no, the starch has a clearer path. Third, watch the portion. Glycemic index tells you speed, but glycemic load also matters because it considers how much carbohydrate you actually eat. A small portion of a high GI food may not act like a giant bowl of it. Amount changes the impact. Fourth, build the plate in the right order. Start with vegetables or fiber-rich foods, add protein, add healthy fats when appropriate. Then place starch inside that structure, instead of letting starch become the entire meal. You are not trying to eliminate the necklace. You are trying to stop it from being cut open all at once. And if you have diabetes, take glucose-lowering medication, use insulin, are pregnant, have kidney disease, or follow a medically prescribed diet, do not use internet food rules as your treatment plan. Work with a qualified clinician or registered dietitian because your response and medication needs can be very specific. The starch trap is not that rice, bread, noodles, or potatoes are secretly evil. The trap is that they are secretly chemical. They can look plain, taste harmless, and still carry long chains of glucose waiting to be unlocked. Once you understand that, food looks different. A cracker is not just crunchy, it is exposed starch. A bagel is not just bread, it is a large glucose chain with very little resistance. A bowl of white rice is not just a side dish, it is a starch package whose speed depends on structure, portion, and the rest of the plate. Your tongue asks one question, is it sweet? Your bloodstream asks a better one, how fast does it become glucose? That is the shift. When you stop judging food by sweetness and start judging it by access, you get control back. You do not have to fear starch. You have to understand it. because the food that looks quiet on your plate may be the one shouting inside your blood.